The dream of owning a home in Toronto feels more like a fantasy for many. Prices keep going up, even when everything else says they shouldn't. Higher interest rates? Check. Tougher mortgage rules? Check. But still, those prices stay sky high. Makes you wonder, will Toronto housing ever be affordable? Let's get into it and explore the cost of a condo today versus the peak of our market. Let's get into the rental market currently, and let's talk about Toronto's missing middle in housing. The talk of the real estate market in Toronto for some time is that we need higher interest rates so that prices can come down and make homes affordable again. The general public's thinking behind this was if interest rates are high, less people can afford to buy homes, meaning less competition and lower prices. At the same time, less people would be able to afford to keep their home, especially if they're on a variable mortgage or they have a mortgage renewal coming up, meaning they would have to sell, and that would increase supply for the housing market, leading to lower prices. Unfortunately, this isn't necessarily how things work. So let's do a quick comparison here so you can see what I mean. The average price of a condo in central Toronto at the peak of our hot market in Q1 of 2022 was $853,000. With 20% down and a 5-year fixed mortgage at 3.5%, you'd be paying $3,400 a month. Fast forward to today, and the average price of a condo in central Toronto is now $779,000. With 20% down and a 5-year fixed mortgage at now 6.2%, you'd be paying $4,000 a month. That same condo that everyone thought was so expensive when the market was hot would have actually saved you $7,800 a year compared to today. That was also at the very peak of the market. A few months before that, and you could have got the exact same interest rate, but that condo would have cost you $799,000, saving you even more money, and those price trends actually apply to freehold homes as well, but condos have seen a slightly larger fall from their peak prices compared to detached and semi-detached homes. Just to really hammer this home and make sure you understand it, if you were looking for an 800 square foot condo in Q1 of 2022, your monthly payment to the bank would have been roughly $3,400 a month. Today, if you're looking for that exact same condo, your monthly payment to the bank would be roughly $4,000 a month. Let's have a quick and very, very simple look at how mortgages work to get an understanding on how higher interest rates, while they visually may cool a housing market, they don't suddenly make homes affordable. When you apply for a mortgage, lenders will look at your gross debt servicing ratio, or GDS. This is the portion of your income that is allowed to go towards your monthly payments on a home in Canada. It's capped at 39% of your income, or 44% if you put a 20% or larger down payment. So simply put, 39 to 44% of your income will go to the bank no matter what. Because of that, when interest rates go up like they have, house prices come down because the cost of borrowing has gone up, and you end up with the exact same monthly payment as when interest rates were low, but prices were at all-time highs. The hopeful outcome of this is that prices come down enough that you can now buy the same amount of house, if not more, for that same monthly payment than you could have when interest rates were low and prices were high. Now, remember when I compared the monthly payment of your average condo during the peak of our hot market to your average condo today? So I had said if you were looking for an 800 square foot condo in February of 2022, your monthly payment to the bank would have been roughly $3,400. Today, that exact same condo would cost you $4,000 a month in mortgage payment, resulting in you needing to lower your budget to a smaller condo or a condo in a more affordable area. This shows that we aren't at that point yet where prices come down enough. You can now buy the same amount of house, if not more, for that same monthly payment than you could have when interest rates were low and the prices were high. Many experts don't see this actually happening anytime in the near future because there are just way too many other factors inflating our housing prices, such as an extreme lack of supply, a population growth that is fueling demand, and an extremely high cost to build in Toronto. The rental market is also facing its own unaffordability crisis, as over the past 2 years, Toronto saw significant hikes in the market rent, with the core witnessing a staggering 40% increase. Tenant advocates are sounding the alarm, arguing that these current rent prices are pushing not just the poor out, but even individuals who earn up to $100,000 a year. Indirectly, Toronto's poverty threshold income amount increases every year. The way we measure this is with a market basket measure, or MBM. The MBM is Canada's official poverty line, and it uses the cost of a basket of goods that are essential for a basic standard of living, such as food, shelter, clothes, and transportation. The amount is then what you would need to earn in order to afford that basket of goods and essentially live comfortably. Now, for Toronto, our MBM rose from $45,000 a year in 2015 to $55,000 a year in 2022. That means that as a family consisting of 2 adults aged 25 to 49 and 2 children aged 2 to 4 and one aged 9 to 13, That family would need to make $55,000 a year in order to cover the very basics of life. That MBM amount is a nearly $10,000 increase over 7 years. At that rate, every 5 years, the threshold for poverty will increase by $6,800, pushing the poverty line to $66,000 in 2030. If you divide that number by 2, you'll get a rough estimate of the amount you need to earn if you're not part of an economic family, so if you lived on your own. So that would bring our present day amount down to $27,000 and the amount of our 2030 prediction to roughly $33,000 if you live on your own. It's troubling for many as we see the cost of living soaring as Toronto fights for the title of one of the most unaffordable places to live in the world. To rent in Toronto as a single person, you need to be making top dollar. That might require a tech giant salary or a top tier job in finance. This squeeze is pushing longtime Torontonians out of not just the city, but even the province and country. The average one-bed rent is hovering around $2,500 for the Toronto core. Times that by 40 and you get $100,000. That's the amount you would need to make a year to somewhat appeal to a landlord, as that would mean that the rent takes up 30% of your income, and landlords typically want to see that the rent takes up no more than 30% of your income. The average condo price for Toronto is $729,000. Want to live downtown? That price rises to $784,000. That's $3,800 a month, assuming you put $156,000 down. Add maintenance fees, utilities, and taxes to that, and you're approaching $5,000 a month, which is $60,000 a year. The median income of a Toronto resident is $84,000 a year. This is the new reality in Toronto's market, a runaway train of both rental and sale prices with no end in sight, making the even so-called affordable options a stretch for the average person. So if the affordable areas of Toronto are no longer in reach and you're already feeling the squeeze, what's next? With the rent-to-income ratio that's breaching the ceiling of sustainability, even when you split the rent with strangers, the slightest year-over-year increase can be overwhelming. So with all this info I just shared, we can see that Toronto housing cannot be affordable anytime in the near future, and in fact, its relative affordability currently relies on interest rates and a never-ending demand. We have huge population growth driving the rental market, and in turn, parts of the resale market. And nobody wants a one-bed plus den condo in downtown Toronto for $5,000 a month, which is what it would cost if you purchased that unit today. Renting it instead for $2,500 a month is just much more appealing in the sense of affordability to 99% of Torontonians right now. Most experts believe there isn't much more room for prices to drop with the current supply-demand imbalance, even though interest rates are pushing many homes to astronomical monthly costs. So you're probably wondering, well then, what's our solution here? Well, the short answer has always been to build more, but it goes much, much deeper than that. Toronto has a serious missing middle problem, the missing middle being less than 6-story multiplexes that offer dense housing and fix Toronto's extremely inefficient use of land. The inefficient use of land that I'm referring to is how Toronto is made up of a dense area of condo towers. Then there are some more condos spread out further from the core of the city from when they were built in the 70s. And then the rest is nearly all single-family detached, semi-detached, and townhomes. If we do the New York City comparison, they don't really have much detached and semi-detached housing unless you get into areas like Brooklyn or the Bronx. But Manhattan, the main city area, is all high-rises and the brownstone townhome. You can't drive on a major arterial road and see small single-family homes like we see on streets like Bathurst, Christie, Dufferin. If we look at this zoning map of Toronto here, you can see we have downtown in the red and orange, which represents high-rise condos and multi-story, multi-unit housing and multi-use buildings. But then we have all this yellow, which only allows for single-family detached, semi-detached, and row house townhouse type homes. Even in the downtown core, there's this large amount of yellow representing that single-family housing that just takes up this large footprint of land to house just one family. Sure, you're now allowed to build garden suites and laneway houses, but even with those pilot projects, it takes years to go through the approval process now just to add housing for an extra family on your single-family property. While community input is valuable, we really need to balance the local Karen's perspectives with the experts' knowledge in urban housing planning. City planners really play a crucial role in addressing the housing crisis, and we need to stop letting so many developments and plans go nowhere because a few people don't want there to be construction in their neighborhood. A lot of people in Toronto are mad at the city planners and developers for not building anything to address our housing crisis, but it's not entirely their fault because the city development process can be shut down by anybody who says, I object, I really like my backyard garden, I don't want it to go anywhere. Toronto can still have suburbia and your cute little Victorian homes, but not in the downtown core. This is a major city and we need denser housing. This also applies to areas where people are spilling over to from Toronto, such as Brampton, Mississauga, Durham region. Those areas are all just ripping up golf courses to build a bunch of huge lot single family homes that no one can afford, and that doesn't really solve any problems. With building the missing middle being our only real solution so far to address overall housing unaffordability, I've got to ask, do you think there's a future in Toronto where housing is affordable? Or is the city destined to become a playground for the wealthy? What are your thoughts? Drop a comment below and let's discuss what moves we can make. If you know anyone who's passionate about urban housing issues or enjoys real estate content, be sure to share this with them. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.